Education will conquer the spread of Ebola. Governor Douglas Blasey, Rotary District 7450 from southeastern Pennsylvania in the USA, supports the hard work of Bishop Billy K. Simbo by creating awareness to the Rotarians in the district and the rest of the Rotary world, with the hopes that most viewers will take action and support the funding of radio and television ads to educate the many illiterate citizens of West Africa against contracting and spreading Ebola.
It's really good to be here this morning to talk to you. 3 countries in West Africa, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Guinea, have been under attack not by military personnel, but by a virus called the Ebola virus. Ebola virus as a disease came into our vocabulary in 1976 when a village in what was then Zaire, today called the Democratic Republic of Congo, they found people getting very, very sick. They were having symptoms that looked like malaria, body aches, headache, high fevers. The difference was that with this disease, people were dying a lot faster. Malaria doesn't kill you in 5-10 days. And then there was bleeding. In that first outbreak in 1976, 400 people were killed. They named the virus after a river that's close to the village, and that's where the word Ebola comes from. What is Ebola? Let us talk about it a little bit. It's a virus that's normally found in the forest. Scientists have discovered that the bats are the main carriers of this, but it doesn't make them sick. So the virus goes from the bats to other animals. And then, of course, once people ingest those animals that have not been properly cooked, you get the human transmission. And from one person, you get the human to human transmission. Any bodily contact with blood or fluids from those people who are infected with the virus causes infection. Normally, there is about a 25 to 90% fatality with Ebola outbreak. Sierra Leone has been hard hit with the Ebola virus. There have been more deaths in Liberia, but as of November 9, 4,435 people have been infected with the virus, and out of those, 1,510 have died. When you look at that infection of over 4,000 people, that's the equivalent of having 227,000 Americans being infected with the virus. And I was telling Alan, we've been keeping track of the infection, and the amazing thing that is really discouraging to me is that the infection rate is escalating in Sierra Leone. When I looked at the report on Friday, they had 111 confirmed new cases of Ebola. Yesterday, the Sierra Leone government Ministry of Health put out a document that said there were 90 new cases. So that's over 200 people in a 3-day span. It's really a very, very high rate of infection. 5 of the 15 administrative districts in Sierra Leone are now under lockdown. Complete quarantine, nobody can come in or go out. And people are also starving because there's no food, and the food that usually comes. As we put this current Ebola outbreak in context, every year in sub-Saharan Africa, about 500 cases of Ebola are discovered. Now, this year, this current Ebola outbreak has infected over 14,000 people. And actually, the current outbreak has killed more people than all of the people who ever died from Ebola in 38 years. The death toll has come to 4,960 people have died. And the reason for it is very, very simple. If you go back to the first Ebola outbreak and the normal outbreak, it happens in the forest. And villages that are far removed from other places, And what you do is you put a ring around it, you contain the spread. In Sierra Leone, in Liberia, and in Guinea, the outbreak is now taking place in the urban areas. The capital of Freetown that's home to about 1.6 million people. So it's very easy to transmit. You can completely surround them and keep them from going from place to place. How not to catch Ebola. This is important information for all of us because there's been a lot of fear and hype. So the Sierra Leone government puts out documents. First, it tells people Ebola is caused by a virus. We really need to understand that and make that clear. It's not caused by witchcraft or a curse that somebody has put on you. And that we smile because that to us is very clear. But when you have a community where there's a lot of superstition and causation for ill health is always related to something spiritual, that's very, very clear. It is spread only through direct contact with bodily fluids of somebody who is already showing the symptoms. So blood, urine, stool, semen, saliva, sweat. It cannot travel, it's not airborne. We've had 38 years to study the virus. It is not something that comes from the air, and people who survive Ebola develop an immunity to the virus. When Ebola strikes, this is what happens. People that are called burial guys burial boys, not guys, in Sierra Leone. They come and they take the body, they put it in the body bag, and the bodies are buried 12 feet, not normal 6 feet, because the bodies are the most infectious. In fact, it has been determined that about 60% of the infection, that is new infections, come from poor, unsafe burial practices. Our people like to wash the body, handle it, and take care of it. They don't have morgues. In the capital city and the two other large cities, they have funeral homes and morgues. But in the village, when somebody dies, normally they bury them the same day. And in the process of handling the dead bodies, people get infected. And so it becomes a really, really dangerous practice. 6 million people in Sierra Leone, we only have 136 doctors. I should say we have, because in this outbreak, 6 doctors have died through the infection. And the latest doctor to be infected, I know him personally. He was a doctor in a mission hospital that was run by my church. That's the equivalent of having one doctor for 44,000 people. In the US, we have one doctor for like every 240, 45 people. And also another health impact is that while we're focused on stopping the spread of Ebola, that's right, all the other diseases that we used to treat, malaria, cholera outbreak, which are annual things that come with the rainy season, all of those have been put aside. I have a sister who's very sick. It's not Ebola related, but she can't get treatment in any hospital. I was talking to my sister last night, the other sister, and she said, we are afraid of the nurses are afraid of us, so we don't go to the hospital. They go to the pharmacy and describe the symptoms and they get medication. Economic impact, the gross domestic product is reduced by 5.3%. That's the estimate that's given. Currently, there is about a 20% inflation. I call my office 3 times a week and talk to them. Prices have gone up so high, it's very hard to keep up with the budget that we had made last December. Educational impact. All educational institutions are closed. This affects, since August, they should have started school in August, some in September, but nobody's going anywhere. That's 60.7% of the population that's affected. Social impact. Over 370,000 orphans have been created since August of this year. That's a great number of children. That's the equivalent of having 246,000 orphans in a 4-month period. It's very, very discouraging, one of the things. Literacy. 35% of the people overall can read or write. Among women who are the primary caregivers, only 24%. Makes it very hard. You see the problem. You can write all the public service announcements that you want, but the people can't read it. It won't benefit them, and they cannot make it. It won't make any difference. So what we are doing is we have partnered with the city council, that is the governing body for the capital city, and we are using our radio broadcast. Before this crisis came, as Alan pointed out, DISCET, the organization that I'm the head of, I'm the director for it, the executive director, has four radio broadcasts, two that cover the western and the northern regions, one that covers the south, and one that covers the east. So we are actually using those broadcasts to pass on the message. People need to know how to prevent getting infected by Ebola. It is very, very important that we keep this going. And DISCET, the organization that I work for, is a trusted voice. It's been there for 16 years. And as you can see, before the Ebola crisis came, people listened to us because we were busy working and helping the people, making sure that they were taken care of. I have 3 full-time counselors, 3 part-time counselors, and right now we're partnered with different agencies to broadcast the message of prevention, because that is going to be the key for stopping the spread of the Ebola virus. How can you help? We've challenged clubs and different people. You can give as an individual. You can give as a club. And what we did from what Alan's club in Abington and Edgehill did, they went to the Gunbaker Foundation and they were able to get a $1,000 matching grant. The first money that was actually raised for this project came from the Abington Club. We sent it to Sierra Leone, and now they don't only have a radio broadcast, but we have a weekly television broadcast. The message needs to get out. It's very important that you join us in fighting this fight. Then when the prevention has taken place, we've stopped the Ebola crisis. We're going to have all these efforts to take care of, and I wish that you will be able to partner with us. Thank you very much for listening. I don't know if you have questions. I'll be happy to answer. Thank you.